Hello, it's a Monday again at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So great to be here with you. I'm really excited about this topic tonight. So I'm going to hang out here for a minute and make sure that I'm being seen on Facebook. And let's see how that goes. And so I'm Shoshana Rychek. I've been a healthy lifestyle advocate most of my life. And now I'm on this journey with nutrition. It's all about nutrition. And I am a functional nutrition and lifestyle counselor. So that is really great. Hi, Dorothy. So glad that's working. I'm so glad you can see me. Hi, Kenny. Excellent. So glad. Tonight's topic is actually can be used. Sorry about that. There's a phone call from a family member. Okay, let me turn that off. Okay. Tonight's topic can actually be used for not only weight loss, but for anything else that you're struggling with that there might be a fear of. And that's why, hi, Joan. Well, excellent. I love it. I love my core group. Thank you so much. It makes it so much fun to be here when you're all here. So, the biggest reason why people fear change, you guessed it, fear of failure. Nobody wants to fail. Sometimes it's easier to do nothing. Sometimes it's easier to just stay where you are. You already know what this is, right? And again, I'm going to use body weight, but it could be anything. It could be literally anything in your life that might need changing or that you might consider changing. And it's just, whether it's a job or whether somebody drinks too much or smokes too much or wants to change their place of living, or maybe they're not in a great relationship. Maybe they have a friend that's not good to them. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's fear of failure. It's fear of what happens or fear of loss. Like, what happens if I let go of this? So this is where it all begins. And what we're going to do is we're just going to break it down for as it relates to food and dieting. And, I'm not crazy about the word dieting, but food choices and choosing to change. Some of my friends who are on here tonight do not need to lose any weight, but perhaps they need to gain weight. Oh, cool. Karen, so glad you're here tonight. Karen's a friend. That's great. So, um, the fear of not achieving what we're going for, it holds us back. It like stifles us, it stymies us. And believe me that I have this myself. I have it with things to do with my work. So we definitely get this. A lot of things I don't have it with. And there are, it's interesting. I was thinking before I started tonight that fear of public speaking, people fear public speaking more than they fear death. And I love public speaking, so that's not my problem. I have others, but right now we'll just focus on the whole weight thing and the body thing. And, I know one thing for sure is when we feel surrounded, with our whatever our thing is, whether it's, again, I'm focusing on body weight, but some of my friends here don't have body weight issues. But whatever that is, it's comforting. It's what we know. So I know there have been times when I've been a little heavier, and I was like not really ready to change that because I knew that body. I knew the way my clothes fit. I knew the way I felt. I knew, and sometimes I felt like I was protecting myself. And I think people who are much more overweight, they also feel protected in their own right. It is a protection. It's a blanket. But the problem with it is that it leads to very serious health issues down the road. And if we're lucky enough to be here and go down the road, let's at least go down with less pain, fewer problems, fewer health concerns, and just stay as healthy as we can possibly stay. So that leads me to the whole guilt. You got to get rid of the guilt. And as you know, one of the things that I do is I work on the subconscious. Guilt is one of those, it's an emotion. It's an emotion, and we feel it very deeply, and we feel guilty about something that's causing us to shove down food. We feel bad about something that's causing us to shove down the feelings. So it's really important to get rid of whatever that is. And if you don't need hypnosis for it with me, then sit yourself down and say, what am I feeling so bad about? What is so hard for me that I've got to shove the food down? That was my problem. And, I think some people, it's just they love to eat, whatever it is. But I do know for a fact that, throughout my lifetime, nobody wants to be unhealthy. Now, they might not have a problem with size, but they don't want to be unhealthy. So we need to figure out what is getting in the way of them achieving that goal of being healthier. And is it guilt? Because people feel guilty when they eat certain things. And then, it's just it's this cycle. It's cyclical. It's a pattern. It's a subconscious pattern. And what I do with people is I help break those patterns. And then because of the fear and because of the guilt, we have resistance. I get that in my work environment sometimes. I resist doing certain tasks because I'm afraid of them, because I want it to be good. I want this live to be good. I want people to learn from it. So there's a little tiny piece of me that talks and says, are you sure you're ready to do this? And the other piece just says, oh, go for it, because nobody else is doing it. I might as well do it. And I love it. I love sharing what I learn. I love sharing my life experiences, but resistance. So if you feel the resistance, or you feel guilt, or you feel that you feel protected, whatever these feelings are, you've got to get in touch with them. And that leads us to identifying your barriers. So guilt could be a barrier, resistance could be a barrier. The fear, what is the fear? Why are people afraid? Most afraid of failure. But why else? I'm afraid to change my body. Well, I have to go buy new clothes, Well, I have to go. Well, yeah, you will, but you do it. We work slowly. Everything goes slowly. And again, it's the choice that you want to make, which would reflect your motivations. What are your motivations? Why, whoever's watching this, and maybe it's not weight for you, maybe it's something else. These titles work for whatever it is. And reflect on your motivations. Why would you want to do it? Why wouldn't you want to do it? I don't want to do it because I don't want to give food up. Well, the great thing about what I do is I help people eat the foods that they love, but we balance them out, right? I think I told you last week, yes, I did, that I'm doing that macros eating. So I'm balancing out my fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. It's really interesting. And I can eat a whole lot more than I did before without gaining any weight. So it's really interesting to me. But reflect your motivations. Don't do it for somebody else. That will never work. You've got to make the change for yourself. You've got to figure out, why do I want to do this? Why does it matter? And it's that big why. And it's that why, as they say, the why that makes you want to cry. So why do you want to change these things about yourself? Why do you want to change your food plan? Why do you want to change your choices? Why do you want to change your body? What is it? Get real with it. Get deep with it. And what would happen, which leads me to the next place. What would happen if you didn't do it? What would happen if you don't make those changes? What are the risks? Well, when it comes to being overweight, of course, everybody thinks about diabetes, right? But also all of the autoimmune problems that people have stem from their gut. Now, not necessarily being overweight, it could just be from poor nutrition, but it all stems from the gut. The gut carries 70% of our immunity. So anything that we're doing to our gut, if we're eating too much sugar, if we're eating too much fat, if we're not balancing things out, it's going to throw things out of whack. It's going to create disease. Diabetes is horrible to have. We've all known people to have it at this stage in our lives. And they have said now that Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and those types of brain diseases stem from a form of diabetes. It all has to do with the glucose and the insulin resistance. So many reasons to want to change, but what happens if you do? And what happens if you don't? And truthfully, this is where you got to get excited about what can change and visualize that change. Imagine that change. Imagine being free from the illnesses and diseases that so many other people are getting. We see people getting these all the time. So consider your outcomes and then write them down, like journal. I'm sure you've all been doing some journaling at different pieces of your life, but journal your thoughts and know that there are no shortcuts and there will be bumps in the road. There is going to be a day or a week when you just sort of lose track. A week's a long time, truthfully, when you're trying to change habits and change behaviors and get excited about a change. A week is a long time to let go, but a day, give yourself a day. I give myself every Saturday is my day to eat what I want, whatever it is. It's my day. And it's not that I'm perfect the other 6 days, but I know Saturday night, I don't think twice about it. I have a really good friend. She's similar. She does the weekend. Now, I can't do a whole weekend like that, but she doesn't eat too much anyway. But she's very careful Monday to Friday and Saturday, Sunday. Those are her 2 days. But just create a plan for yourself. Plan for bumps in the road. Know that, okay, I'm going to do well. I'm going to have a little bump. I'm going to come back. It's something that you do over time that changes your subconscious patterns. And that's what we want to do. That's how I was able to keep this weight off for over 10 years. I changed my subconscious pattern because I focused on other things. I focused on more protein. I focused on my exercise, of course, but that's nothing new. I just learned how to choose different foods and paid attention to my body weight and how my clothes fit. And, I'm just not willing to go to that next size. I'm not willing to do that. So are you willing? Now, how would it feel to go into stores and to be able to pick out the clothes that you actually love, not just because of the size? Now, again, I know I'm talking to some people here that do not need to lose anything. Hey, Suze, good to see you. And Linda, so glad you're here. Debbie, thank you so much. Just skipping over to my little messages here. I saw a little message thing come up. But that was a big thing for me. It was thinking about, God, I'm so tired of always having to go with these aisles where they have these clothes, but I want those clothes. So that was one of my things. And I actually hated clothes shopping when I was overweight. Couldn't stand it. Hated putting things on, hated the way they fit me. And now it's much better, right? So you've got a plan for bumps in the road. And again, for anybody who's just joining, consider the outcomes. What happens if you change nothing? What happens if you change something? Where there's fear and fear of failure, there has to be some sort of understanding. And again, why I work with the subconscious, because your brain only knows what you tell it. If you tell your brain, I don't care what it is, I'm not going to come up with an example right now, but whatever you're telling yourself, you're going to believe it. That's what brains do. They believe what you tell it. So if we work from the subconscious, and then there's new messaging coming up from the depth of your body, then that's going to make a huge difference. And then when we go and decide to make a change, even though it's nerve-wracking, even though we're a little scared, and I'm going to use my business, for example, and all this social media stuff. You've seen me, trip over myself a couple of weeks in a row of, getting this streaming thing right. And I still don't exactly know how it's working, but it is. But you just put one foot in front of the other. The same thing with changing our bodies. Just one foot in front of the other, one day to the next, one meal to the next. Plan it out. Some really good ideas here one is to redefine failure. What is failure? If the biggest fear that people have is failing when they're trying to make a change, and again, I'm going to focus on the body weight, but truthfully, it goes for anything in life. If the biggest fear is failing, what is failing? The most successful people in the world have had to fail in sports, in business. I don't care what it is. They've had to fail. You have to learn from mistakes. It's necessary. It's what happens. So accept that a form of failure is going to happen. And I would rather call it bumps in the road and plan for those. Hey, I'm going to have a bump. I'm going to a party. Parties are really hard for me. I'd rather not think about it. So I'm going to see what my subconscious directs me to do. Because again, if we're really strong in our motivations, if the why we want to do something is really strong and we've written it out and we've contemplated it and maybe even meditate on it, maybe even come up with a mantra for it. And again, I'm happy to help with all of those things. But if you have all of that, then when you're in a situation, it's not failing, you're choosing. And I like the word choose. You're choosing to get off the plan for a moment or for a night or for whatever. It's a choice. And when you work with your subconscious is directing you, but you make a choice. You make a choice that says, hey, I'm going to go do this today and I'm going to pay the price. For me, lately, my price is 2 to 3 days of getting back on track to get back on track. It doesn't, one night off does mess me up much of the time. And then in a couple days, I'm fine again. So you just have to know what are your thresholds and how do you respond? How do you bounce back? And one thing that's super helpful is a food diary. I promise you, I thought I would never in a million years again, since Weight Watchers in sixth grade. I don't even know if any of my friends knew I was in Weight Watchers in sixth grade. Debbie, you might remember, but I thought I would never do a food diary again. But guess what? I'm doing that macros eating, looking at my carbohydrate, protein, and fats, and I'm logging my food every day to see. I even bought a food scale because I'm like, well, how much does this weigh? I don't want to I don't want to limit what I can eat because I over guessed it or something like that. I want to see how this works. And it's incredible that it's working, and it's incredible how much more food I can eat. And if anybody wants help with that, just ask. I'm going to check comments here for a minute. Dorothy says, I love it too. Nadia's here. Yay. Nadia is a dear friend I met through business, and I invited her to join. She's also got a lot of good health things going on, and we share that in common. Oh, so glad you're here, Nadia. So a food diary is really helpful. And, sometimes we don't realize how much we're eating or how little. When we starve ourselves, that's no good either. And I don't know if you remember, I think next week I'm going to go back to what are all the other things that cause weight gain, like obesogens from chemicals, toxins in the homes. Those cause weight gain. They disrupt your endocrine system. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff, but it's good. Like, plot out your food. Like, what did I eat today? Just know what you're eating. Is it a carbohydrate? Is it a fat? Is it a protein? Is it a little of all? How hungry am I? Gee, I wonder if I increase my protein, would that change things? Would I be less hungry? Would I be more hungry? Play with your food and see how you feel. And I actually have some products that I recommend to help people that reduce cravings, which is something that we're going to talk about too. But set small goals. I am the biggest culprit for setting these goals. I mean, I love to visualize, I love to imagine, and I get these grandiose ideas about things. And then I just have to come back. But today, here's where I'm at. And so in my business, it's really important for me to meet people where they're at. Somebody might not be ready for everything that I have to share. I've got to figure out where they are. Well, personally, I might need to take a step back from what I want to do and be realistic with my time frame and my goals and what it's really going to take me to make the changes that I want to make. We all need to do this. And then to track your habits. So habits are just that, and they are driven from your subconscious. Again, why I'm so strong about changing the patterns, because your habits, you're used to doing a certain routine, right? And that leaves your brain free to think about other things. But is that routine the best routine for you? And if it's not, what's the smartest way to change it? So you don't want to have to think about it. And that's where that struggle comes in. And you've heard me talk about that struggle before. The struggle is when you intuitively know that this is not good for me, but your brain says, do it anyway because I want it. What if we change the subconscious pattern that says, this isn't good for me and I don't want to do it? And then your brain's like, okay, she just told me she doesn't want to do it. It's really cool the way that works. So track your habits, what's happening in your day to day. If you're having trouble with this whole, weight loss, and you understand what your fears are, you say, okay, I'm going to jump in anyways. What is leading to the weight gain? What is leading to me not losing the weight that I want to lose? And then know your danger zones and plan ahead. We talked about planning ahead with planning for bumps in the road, but we all have danger zones. For some people, it could be after a meal, they want dessert. Now, again, with the higher levels of protein, a lot of that goes away, but you have to know what are your danger zones. Or maybe it's like, oh, at temple on a Friday night when they have an Oneg Shabbat and there's all these cakes and cookies and sweets and things out there. It's hard to resist that. But if my why is strong enough, I'm not hungry because I've had enough protein, it is so much easier to do less damage than to do more. So, and again, it's not so much that I'm thinking about it, but I've learned how to pay attention to my body. How am I feeling? What do I really want? My subconscious is leading me. I'm not hungry. So these are things that we work on, but to make the change, yeah, I'm hoping this helps you. You might want to watch the replay because I'm going kind of fast through these things. And lastly, avoid cravings. Cravings come from not eating enough. We were going to go out to dinner Saturday night, and I could have skipped lunch and been really hungry to go out for dinner, but I didn't want to do that. First of all, I was hungry, so I wanted to eat my lunch. And then I wasn't that hungry, went out for dinner, but I also didn't overeat. And restaurant food, honestly, I talk about that with a lot of my friends. Between the salt and the fat, the way they prepare it, it's never the way we do it at home. For most of my friends, I'm sure I have friends that, especially living down here in the South, I know I have friends that cook with a heavy hand, but for a lot of my friends, we don't. And then we go out and we eat like this. So I was going to a really good Mexican restaurant Saturday night with family. And I knew that with all the good chips, like really fresh ones, they make them there. And the salsa makes it so easy to eat a bunch of them. And I just didn't want to be in that position. So what did I do? I knew that was my danger zone. So I ate a good meal with high protein before I went out. And when I got there, it was like nothing, but we did go out for ice cream. It was Saturday night. And even though I wasn't that hungry, it was Saturday night. And that's my night to splurge or do something. We actually found this really cool place that maybe you've heard of it. It's called the Buzzed something or another, but they put liquor in if you want it, or you can go without. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. But then they have nitrous oxide feeding into these mixing bowls, and they freeze your ice cream while they're mixing it, whatever they're mixing it with. And there were, let's see, it was Eric, Jamie, myself, Kenny, Wendy, and her daughter Lily. And out of all of us, Kenny's the only one who doesn't drink, right? So guess who is the only one that got liquor in their ice cream while I gave it away? Kenny did. None of us did. We all got the unbuzzed versions. It was pretty funny. So this is what I wanted to share with you tonight. And you can really translate this. This whole fear of change can really be translated to almost anything in your life. And you could take this very same information and use it. But I like to use it with the whole food and body weight because, it's just hard to sometimes make those changes. So, Dorothy, glad you thought that was funny. So, does anybody have questions about what I said? I usually come on for like 20 minutes ish, and I'm at 25 already. I didn't even realize it would go so long. Maybe I rambled a little bit. Was it helpful? Put a little two. Why don't you drop a two in the comment box if it was helpful, if you got something out of it? That would help me know if this is something that I should do again. And next week, I think I'm going to go back to the program that I once did. Oh, great. Thanks, Dorothy and Karen. Glad that helped, Joan. Excellent. Yeah, there's always something, right? You show up and you can walk away with something. And here's the other thing. Even if it's not for you, we all know people that are looking for help in one way or another. Great. Thanks, Linda. Um, we all know people that need help. And just by you showing up here, even though you might not want or need this, you might know somebody who does. And then you can say, I was on this thing and I can take you. There's a replay of it, and all the videos of these they're on my Facebook, and people watch them. So you can definitely watch it and see, or send them to watch it, excuse me. Or share if you walk away with one nugget. I'd love to know if you're bold enough, like what's one nugget that you walk away with here, that you think is worth sharing with somebody. I'd love to know what that is too. One thing. What is one thing that I said in the last 25 minutes that you think could help somebody down the road? That would be great to know. And then when people go to watch the video, then they say, oh, that's cool. I want to hear what she has to say about that. Really, that's all I have planned for tonight. So next week, we are going to talk again about what are the other things that cause weight gain? It's not just food. And that's what we all have to be aware of. There are so many things. And a lot of them: stress, toxins. And I have a list. I'm not prepared to do it right now, but I will be prepared next week. So if you know anybody that's looking for hints and tips on staying healthy and their body weight, just send them over. This is a service to help people live better longer. So lots of love to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me. Dorothy, Linda, Joan, Karen, yes, Karen, and Suzanne, Nadia, and Debbie, and Joan. Did I say Joan yet? Kenny, Dorothy, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was a nice group tonight. Thank you. Yeah, Linda, thank you for sharing that. That's right. So many illnesses. That is where they start. I started my nutrition program, and yeah, it's all the autoimmune. We know people with Crohn's disease. We know people with Hashimoto's. We know people with all these things that deal with their thyroids and everything. And it all starts in the gut. So nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Send me a message, or if there's something that you want me to talk about in the future, I'll be here to do that. Have a great night. Have a great week. And to all of my friends who celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Happy New Year.